Hey friends, and welcome back. In this video, I'm going to walk you through my simple yet powerful two-light setup for capturing mouth-watering drinks on location. With just a key light and a rim light, you can achieve professional-looking results anywhere. Stick around as I break down my process step by step, from the equipment I use to light placement and how I like to edit my photos. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe if you're not already. Let's get it. This video is a follow-up to a video I made about 2 years ago about affordable off-camera flash. So if you're curious about how to get started with equipment, I'm going to link it up here. I'll link it in the description box below as well. With that said, let's jump into my favorite lighting setup ever. I use it for everything. So what we're talking about today is a two-light setup, and you're kind of looking at it right now. Just ignore everything in the background. I got my key light right here. This is the big source of light. It's kind of like my sun, if you will, not my S-O-N sun, my S-U, like the sun, like everyone's sun, the sun in the sky. And then I got my hair light or my kicker light, which is a light that's mounted way up here behind me. You can see what it's doing along the top of my hat and my shoulder here. It basically helps define the edge of your subject and kind of separates it from the background. Kind of makes it look 3D. So to recap, key light, big light source, and then kicker light way up there, adding this sliver of light that you see along my shoulder. This same two light scenario works perfectly for cocktail and bartender portraits. So the first thing I like to do on shoot days is arrive about 1 hour early. So this gives me plenty of time to troubleshoot my equipment. I like to make sure that everything is working perfectly and I can really dial in my settings when there's no one around. So I like to pick an object that's not going to move and just place it on the bar top where the cocktails are going to be displayed. And then I can really dial in my settings here. So just like my talking head setup that I just shown you, I like to set up my key light to my right-hand side, facing the bar top at about a 45-degree angle. I can dial this in as I need to and make adjustments later on if necessary. And then my kicker is going to be behind the bar, facing the drink from the side. Again, just like my talking head setup. So the reason that I like to use flash photography as opposed to natural light is because it gives me way more control. I can predict how the pictures are gonna look before I even get to the venue to take them. And by the way, the bar that I'm in, it is like a cave. There is one window at the front of the bar, and then about 40 feet away from it, there is nothing. In a way, I'm grateful that this bar resembles a cave because it forced me to get into speedlight photography. So all of the light that you see in the images that I'm showing you today is all artificial light. So once I've got everything set up and I've got my lights in place, I can now begin to take some test pictures to really dial in my setup. So for this first shot, I'm going to make sure that both of my speedlights are turned off. So with this first shot, you're going to see absolutely nothing. It should be completely black. So that means I have a blank canvas. The camera is not picking up any natural light in this first shot. So now when I add in my speedlights, you're going to see exactly what they're adding to this frame. So if I go ahead and take a picture with just my kicker light in, you can see what it's doing. You can see that it's adding that little glimmer of light around the edge of the subject that's going to be a cocktail. It helps to define the shape and separate it from the background, adding some depth and dimension that normally wouldn't be there. And now I'm ready to add in my key light so we can see what that's adding to our picture. So then when we apply this same lighting setup to an actual picture of a drink, we're going to get something that looks like this. And as you can see, the key light is doing most of the heavy lifting here, and the kicker light or the hair light is just adding that little sliver of light around the shoulder of the drink that I think is chef's kiss. Now, for the longest time, I only had one speed light, and that's perfectly fine to create awesome looking images too. But if you're using one speed light, you would probably want to use a bounce card or some kind of bounce sheet where you are bouncing the light that comes off your key light. It's hitting your bounce card and filling in the darker side of the drink, just lifting those shadows ever so slightly. Okay, so let's move on to the equipment that I'm using real quick. Does equipment matter? Let's rephrase that question from now on. Let's instead say, is it necessary to have expensive equipment to create good quality images? It's catchy. The answer is no. Expensive gear makes life a little bit easier to have those nice things, but I don't think it's necessary to have the best of the best just to create professional or good looking images. Like, to me personally, the difference between an affordable speedlight and a higher end expensive speedlight is the recycle time. That's it. That's really all I see. And what I mean by recycle time is when you fire off your flashes, they have to recharge to build that charge for the next burst of light. That time that it takes to recharge, I feel like the expensive ones do that pretty fast, and the inexpensive ones are like a split second behind. So it's like, if that's a deal breaker, then yes, expensive equipment, I guess, is better. But for stuff like this, you absolutely do not need to have the best of the best to create great looking images. Currently in my camera bag, I'm using two GODOX 862s. My diffusion for my key light is an umbrella, pretty inexpensive. I got this on B&H. Again, everything will be linked below. This is the 36-inch umbrella. I'm not gonna open it because it's pretty big, but yeah, you guys know what an umbrella looks like. Then I'm using the bulb diffusion on my kicker. I use this just because it's a lot smaller and because I have the power settings turned down on the kicker. Something like this is perfect, it works just fine. To be honest, you probably don't even need anything on a kicker. I just like to soften it with one of these. They work pretty cool. You just put this on the speedlight and then this has a magnet and it just attaches to it. My trigger is the GODOX X Pro C. And my favorite lens ever, and I've made a video about this lens also, I'll link in the description box below. This is the 100mm f2.8. This is my all-time favorite. This is the GOAT of lenses for me. Oh, and a couple of other things you might have noticed in some of these pictures, there's like this very cool star effect. That is because I'm using a couple of filters. I got the Starburst filter from Prism Lens Effects, and I'm also using my favorite filter of all time. It's the Black Pro Mist filter. That adds a nice, soft, blooming quality to my images. So the Starburst filter and the Black Pro Mist filter together make a nice effect. I'm kind of having a lot of fun shooting with those. Let me see what else. Oh, my camera, the Canon R5, which I'm shooting on right now. Again, my go-to. Awesome camera. And then finally, let's edit one of these pictures from scratch so I can show you what I'm doing when I go to edit them. Okay, so here I have an image open from a shoot that we did for like St. Patrick's Day of Irish coffees. This is an unedited picture, and to be honest, I don't do a ton of adjustments. This is the beauty of using a two-light speedlight setup, is that your images already look quite strong because you've got your lighting dialed in. So yeah, let me just run real quick through some of the adjustments I would make to an image like this. So the first thing I'm going to do is straighten this image and then crop it. So I'll probably crop this 4:5. If I was posting it on Instagram, I might just hit X to turn it 4:5 this way, and then maybe size it to something like this. But for now, let's just leave it landscape. So next, I'm going to add one of the presets that I use quite regularly, and I know this is a hot topic for photographers. People are very anti-presets. I find them just, for my workflow, it speeds things up quite a bit, and I just like how it looks. So I'm always going to Evan Ramp's presets. I think they're awesome. Big fan of his photography and what he does. Got his hat right here. So yeah, I like this presets pack from a couple of years ago. So yeah, I'll just like go through the presets and find one I think that stands out. Something like this looks good. Number 5, number 6, 7 looks good. I'm just going to I'm gonna choose 5 and I'm gonna roll it back a little bit, and then I'm just going to dial in some of the exposure settings. So once I just drop a preset on it like that, I come over here to my exposure and my shadows and highlights, and just play around with whatever like I feel works for this. So I'm going to turn up the exposure a little bit, bring down the highlights because the cream is a little bit blown out. Now we can just toggle back and forth to see how the image is looking. So I like how that's going so far. If I want to give it more of a stylized look, I might raise the shadows here like so, something like this. That might be a bit too much, but you get what I'm going for. And then other than that, I would clean up these parts here on this shaker in Photoshop. Like I would just use generative fill. Actually, let's just use generative fill in Lightroom. Let's see how it goes. I don't use AI in Lightroom a ton, but wow, maybe I should because that looks awesome. So let's edit one more picture while we're here. I'll pick this from a more recent shoot. So again, with an image like this, I would typically size it, but I think this was shot knowing that I wanted to share it for like Instagram stories. So I think the aspect ratio would be 16:9 and just center it like this or something. And then pick a preset that I want to use. Let's see. Maybe something like 6 looks good. We can make some adjustments. I'm gonna raise the shadows a little bit. That looks good, honestly. Nothing really to be cleaned up here. Quite happy with that. If I toggle back and forth on the image, you can just see that I made it a little bit more punchier and raised the shadows a little bit. And that's it. That's really all I do when it comes to editing. Just keep it as simple as possible so I can move on with other stuff. So let me know what you guys think. Go ahead and drop a comment below, or maybe you just have a question. If I can help you, I would be happy to. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.